Red Bull have breached the cost cap as we all know, but every week more and more information gets leaked about what happened and what the possible punishment could be. Let's take a look at recent news and find out what Red Bull have to say. Spoiler alert, Christian Horner isn't too happy about the situation and blasted Zak Brown at a press conference after Brown stated that Red Bull had been cheating. Following the passing of Red Bull founder Dietrich Mateschitz, discussions between Red Bull and the FIA on a Formula 1 cost cap breach agreement have been suspended. After a long illness, Mateschitz passed away on Saturday at the age of 78, igniting a flood of condolences throughout the F1 paddock. Earlier in the United States Grand Prix race weekend, Red Bull had focused much of its attention on talks with the FIA regarding its suspected breach of F1's expense cap last year. Red Bull fiercely refuted the FIA's assertion that it had surpassed the $145 million cap for the 2021 season in its audit. Christian Horner, the boss of Red Bull F1, and Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the president of the FIA, had discussions regarding the issue in Austin, and Horner expressed interest in obtaining a prompt resolution. However, discussions about any accepted breach agreement have been placed on pause in light of Mateschitz passing, and the deadline has also been moved as a result. Following the passing of Mr. Mateschitz, all conversations with the FIA around cost cap and next steps are on hold until further notice, read a statement from Red Bull. The deadline for agreement has been extended and we expect talks to pick back up middle of the week. Although Horner said the team's application was well below the cap and that the alleged violation would have had zero benefit on car performance, Red Bull is expected to receive some sort of punishment from the FIA. Currently, discussions center on an accepted breach agreement, which would see Red Bull acknowledge that it went over the budget limit and come to a deal with the FIA. Horner said on Saturday, prior to news of Mateschitz' death, that he was hopeful it can be resolved during this weekend, warning that the case could drag on if an agreement is not struck. The next process is it goes to the cost cap administration panel, and then beyond that, there's the International Court of Appeal, said Horner. So it could draw out for another 6-9 months, which is not our intention. We want closure on 2021. I think that we've had some healthy and productive discussions with the FIA. I'm hopeful of being able to reach conclusion in the near future. While Horner declined to comment on the talks, he did say that Red Bull will be completely transparent once a settlement has been achieved, making a reference to the covert way in which Ferrari and the FIA resolved an engine issue. It's a confidential discussion between ourselves and the FIA, Horner told the media. What I will say is that once, hopefully, this situation is concluded, there will be complete transparency, and I will talk you through the reasoning behind our submission. It should be transparent. The whole thing should be transparent. There's not going to be no private, secret deal. I think it would all be absolutely all above board. This is very different to a previous situation. Horner is alluding to the agreement reached between Ferrari and the FIA in the early months of 2020 regarding the Scuderia's 2019 engine, which other teams thought violated fuel flow regulations in order to enhance power. The agreement, whose details were kept under wraps, was disclosed on the penultimate day of preseason testing in 2020. Zak Brown, the boss of McLaren, expressed his satisfaction with the FIA throughout the procedure. I think we have a lot of trust in the FIA. All we were doing was volunteering our opinion for them to take into consideration, he said of the letter he wrote to the FIA. I think it has been a transparent process so far, and the certificates were going to be issued, then it was delayed, but they communicated it was going to be delayed. They've communicated who's received and who hasn't received a procedural breach. I don't think it's right. It shouldn't be a public hearing. I've got a lot of confidence that it will be transparent at the end. So I think we need to let the process play out. And only then can you really take a view on what you think of the process. But so far, it's gone according to how they laid out what the process would be. Zak Brown seemed to be happy about the way it's handled right now, but Christian Horner wasn't too happy about Brown snooping around the Red Bull team. Christian Horner has attacked rival Formula 1 boss Zak Brown for making cheating claims after Red Bull exceeded the expenditure restriction for 2021. Red Bull is thought to have over the $145 million budget cap by $1.8 million, after spending more than the other 9 teams due to expenses in 4 key areas. In response, Brown, the head of McLaren, wrote a letter to the FIA stating that he believed a violation of the cost cap constituted cheating. Red Bull and the FIA are now negotiating a resolution, but Horner criticized Brown for his most recent remarks, even though he withheld any information regarding the proceedings. It's tremendously disappointing for a fellow competitor to be accusing you of cheating. To accuse you of a fraudulent activity is shocking. It's absolutely shocking that another competitor, without the facts and without any knowledge of the details, can be making that kind of accusation. We've been on trial because of public accusations since Singapore, and the rhetoric of cheating, that we've had this enormous benefit, and the numbers put out to the media are miles out of reality. The damage that does to the brand, to our partners, to our drivers, to our workforce, in an age where mental health is prevalent, we're seeing significant issues. Within our workforce, we're having kids that are being bullied in playgrounds that are employees' children. That is not right through fictitious allegations from other teams. You cannot go around just making that kind of allegation without any fact or substance. We absolutely are appalled at the behavior of some of our competitors. In response to Horner's remarks, Brown insisted that his letter was not specifically addressed to Red Bull. My letter set out that I think if someone, a team, spends more than the cap, they're going to get an advantage, he said. And the cap is a rule no different than the technical rules in the sport. We're not taking a view whether they did or didn't. My letter was, if someone has, then here are the things that we think should be addressed. It is no different than if ride height is incorrect, or a flexi wing, or whatever the case may be. I didn't mention any teams. It was a general response now that we are into the cost cap era. If someone breaches that, here's what we think some of the ramifications are. But what kind of ramifications are on the table here? And why is everything taking so long? According to sources around the paddock, Red Bull is unhappy with the FIA's tedious communication. It was ultimately decided that Christian Horner and FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem would meet on Friday rather than Thursday. Red Bull's scheduled press conference was consequently postponed once more. The FIA had reportedly already recommended a fine to Red Bull approximately a week prior, according to the media. According to reports, 25% of total wind tunnel time will be held back for the upcoming season, and a fine would be imposed. A retroactive fine and points deduction for 2021 would not be an option. However, this suggestion is rejected by the Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez team. Christian Horner, the team's manager, is seeking clarity quickly, but it's not helpful for him since he must meet with Mateschitz's family, who own the Austrian can giant. If Red Bull receives a penalty and so admits guilt, it will have an effect not only on the reputation of the Formula One team, but also on the entire Red Bull brand. It's likely that this has already caused some delays. So we'll probably have to wait for a couple of weeks before we know the punishment. What kind of punishment would you like to see? And does a wind tunnel time punishment seem like something reasonable? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed watching the video. We'll see you in the next one.